Hello everyone, ciao ragazzi, welcome to our podcast about Formula One in Osservatore Sportivo. This is our third episode where we decided to discuss the upcoming third season of Drive to Survive on Netflix, as well as recall interesting moments from the past two seasons. My name is Justina, I'm a Formula One journalist. Mindy is a motorsport journalist from the United States. Manena is a blogger from Mexico, and we have a new member. Her name is Ekaterina. She has been a sincere fan of Formula One since 8 years old. She has her own blog about Formula One on Instagram. Ekaterina, nice to meet you.
Hello, nice to meet you too. Thanks for inviting me.
Okay, good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Can't wait for the season to finally start.
Yes, me too. And I've just been I had such a crazy week with IndyCar, just doing nonstop IndyCar stuff. And now I'm ready to switch gears and do the F1 stuff. So yeah, totally excited.
I have a countdown. I'm counting the days till the season. Every day I stress out the date. I really can't wait to see the races. I'm really waiting for the race in Bahrain.
Let's get started. Formula One and Netflix confirmed that the third season of Drive to Survive will launch another 10 episodes on March 19. And in the most dramatic season to date, fans will once again be taken behind the scenes to witness firsthand how the drivers and teams battle it out for victory in a year like no other. Lando Norris spoiled the first episode of the series, saying that it will be dedicated to the race in Austria, where he finished the race on the podium. What do you think about the trailer, first episode, and what are your expectations for the season as a whole?
Well, the trailer was great. I mean, Drive to Survive really knows how to make things spicy and how to get people, wanting to watch the series. I've known so many girls that don't even like the Formula One, and they started watching Drive to Survive because of, all the drama and because it's so interesting. And also because they like the drivers, because they think they're very cute, obviously. But in my case, I can't wait to start watching it. I mean, like I said, the trailer is so spicy, and it's gonna be the most exciting season yet. So many things happened on 2020.
Yes, I agree with you about the trailer. It was very bright, it was very spicy, and about the spoiler, I really like Lando Norris, and I can't wait to see some behind the scenes with him.
Totally, all of the above. It's totally going to be dramatic. It's going to be crazy because everything was crazy. There's so many things I'm looking forward to. The Ferrari stuff going on there with all that drama. Lewis Hamilton, winning consistently. What about COVID? I'm excited I'm wondering how we're going to see that play into there. And then of course Romain, Grosjean, it's going to be fantastic. And they do, and I agree with Manena, they do such a good job reeling in the people that aren't motorsports fans, and so I think it's gonna be wonderful. The trailer was wonderful. I'm pumped. Let's go. Let's relive it. But it's gonna be brutal because I'm a Seb fan, so I'm kind of like, yes, let's do it, but no, I'm gonna cry in the corner. So I'm not gonna lie. But it's gonna be emotionally draining for me again. But let's do it. Let's go. I'm ready. Let's do it.
Okay, very nice, great. I am really looking forward for this season as well. I think it will be very dramatic because so many things happening there. Speaking of drama, I think there might be a whole episode dedicated to Romain Grosjean, and we know that this year he will be performing at IndyCar, and I think Mandy is very happy.
Happy about that.
Returning to the series, I would like to say that the host team has attracted the attention of viewers for several years, and just remember the first season. The first episodes were also about them in the second one last year, and this year they have two newcomers, Mick Schumacher and Nikita Mazepin, so I think some episodes of the fourth season will also be about us. But what are your memories of this team in different seasons of the series, and would you give an Oscar to Günther Steiner?
Definitely. He is the star of the show. He literally makes Drive to Survive. I mean, all his quotes are hilarious. Everything that comes out of his mouth is hilarious. Even when he tries to be mean or angry, I can't help but laugh, to be honest. And well, my favorite memory would definitely have to be, well, in season 1, when Haas did amazingly. 2018 was a strong year for them, in which they finished 5th place from constructors. And I'm such a Kevin Magnussen fan, so yes.
Okay, next one.
I'll go next. Well, so I think when you look at the progression of Drive to Survive, right? I think what was so cool about the first season was that it focused, yes, on Haas, right? And the mid-level teams, which was so cool because we're so used to just focusing on Mercedes and Ferrari, and they weren't in that first season, right? So it was really cool to get to know those drivers really well. So I really, really like that. You've got to see such a personal side of them. You know, we think we know the drivers, but then they go the extra mile, right? And then season 2, you bring in, you know, Ferrari and Mercedes, and it's great, right? And I feel like they focused a little bit more on Ferrari because Ferrari is dramatic. They are like the telenovela, like they are very dramatic. So they had way more going on than Mercedes, who is just like doing good. You know, so I think I think that if I had to pick like one favorite moment, I don't know because there's so many. Gunther Steiner is just amazing, but he also, I'm not gonna lie, he like stresses me out because I used to live in New York, and I had people like Gunther Steiner all the time yelling at me. So it like brings back PTSD, and I'm like, like when he starts yelling, I'm like, I totally get like that. But at the same time, he's got that like loving kind of bone in him. You can see it, and it's and the lines. I mean, you know, his lines are great. So, but I think when you look at the progression of the series, it's really cool, and I think this year, this last season that's coming out, I think we're going to be just even more excited about it. And yeah.
And what about the moment I remember the most is from 2019. And it was not the first race, it was in the mid-season when Haas wanted to compare their car from Australia to the car they developed to find where it all had gone wrong. So it was very important for them to finish the race, and Roman Grosjean and Kevin Magnussen crashed into each other instead. Yeah. And I had the feeling when you're like watching the film, you have already watched, you know how it ends, but you don't want it to end like this, and you're like, oh no, this won't happen, please. And what about Gunther Steiner? I definitely agree with you. I think he is the star of the Drive to Survive series, and he is one of the best characters there.
Okay,
said it. They're characters. I mean, I feel even the drivers and the team principals kind of get their personalities a little bit exaggerated. I mean, not them, because they always say that they act naturally, and that Netflix is the one that dramatizes their personalities. So yes, you said the keyword. They're all characters.
They are characters. Well, you know, I used to be a reality TV producer. Let me tell you. Whoa. So in New York, when I lived in New York, I did. And let me tell you, I know all of the things, the tricks and everything they do to the questions you ask. I mean, I worked on a competition show with models, and I had producers telling me, go lie to that contestant to go get a reaction from that contestant. And I was like, what? Like, this is kind of how it is. You do dramatize it. Like, that's what, but let's just be real. Does Gunther Steiner need like any dramatizing? No. Like, you know what I mean? Does he even need that? Like, no, because he's like does it on his own. But yeah, definitely. They definitely do a good job of making it like that, like a little bit more drama. So it's way cool.
That's perfect. I remember I was in Baku 2 years ago, and it was fourth stage of the season. There was many fans from different countries, and I remember they came to Günther Steiner with gifts. And like, for example, I remember one cap that was like his quote from the Drive to Survive. It was very funny. He was so happy. He was like, "Oh, everybody come to me! I'm a superstar now." It was very cute and very nice to see it. So yeah, people like him a lot. As we can see after Drive to Survive. And yes, I really like Günther Steiner as a team principal. But speaking about Oscar, I would also give an Oscar to Lewis Hamilton. But okay, by the way, yes, as we already say, Günther Steiner even said in one interview that after the first season, a lot of people came to him in the paddock and talked to him. But another person who was written by 50,000 of fans in a single month after the release of the series is Esteban Ocon, and his story was very well revealed in the first season, and personally it helped me to look on the other side of Esteban Ocon, because I didn't quite understand what happened at the 2018 Brazilian Grand Prix. And what do you think about the event on the race between the French driver and Max Verstappen, and about Ocon and his driver's potential in general?
Well, I think that was very dramatic. I mean, Max literally wanted to punch Esteban after that.
Yeah.
And we all know how aggressive Max Verstappen can be. So, I mean, but I have such a conflicting opinion regarding that moment, because I have always seen Esteban Ocon as, you know, the peaceful personality of the Formula One. But then again, I mean, then it makes me wonder, because he's pretty much the only driver that has trouble with a lot of other drivers, you know? He kind of got kicked out of Racing Point because he was always fighting with Checo Perez. And they would always make Checo look as a bad guy, when sometimes the person that speaks the less can be the baddest of them all, I think. So I don't know, like, I have a very conflicting opinion. It's just so complicated for me to comment on this situation.
I totally agree with you, Manena, on the conflicting thing, and I'll tell you why I always get conflicted with that incident, that famous incident in Brazil, because I'm a true believer that if you're if you're a racer, you're a driver, you go. You have the right to unlap yourself. You do. But then at the same time, like, bruh, you just took him out. That was like the one race where we wanted Max Verstappen to win, and it seemed like a dirty move. And I feel like I'm conflicted with Ocon on is he a dirty driver, or was that a racing incident, right? Like a genuine racing incident, because like I said, you know, the famous quote from Senna, if you no longer go for that gap, you're no longer a race car driver. So you have to have that heat in you and that passion as a driver, or else what are you doing? What are you doing in a race car? So conflicted, completely conflicted. I couldn't agree with you more, Manena. And what do I think of him now? I'm waiting. I'm waiting to see the potential. Still waiting to see it. I'm not completely, I get it that he's in a Renault, and Ricciardo had some problems too. They had some problems, but at the same time, I'm waiting. I'm waiting to see the hype. I'm waiting to see if he has earned his seat. Does that make sense? Because I haven't been too impressed with him yet. You know, I'm not saying that I don't like dislike I don't know anything like that. I just haven't seen it, like, a moment where he's been like, yes, I can see the potential. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, not with Ocon yet, but maybe he can prove me wrong this year. So yeah, that's my thoughts. Those are my thoughts.
Okay. And what about me? I clearly remember that moment. I remember I really wanted Max to win that race. I'm not a fan of Max, but I really want him to win. But in that situation, I understand both Max's behavior and Ocon too, because as you said about Senna's race, he should have gone for the cap. And Max, he is so passionate, he is so hungry for the wins. He should have won the race, and then Ocon destroyed everything. And what about his potential as a driver? I think he is very young, but he also has some experience. And this year it is going to be very interesting because he's going to compete against Fernando Alonso, who is a world champion. But it would be really exciting for me to see how he will compete against him, because I think he has some potential there.
Okay, very nice. And did the series help change the opinion about another driver for the better or for the worse way after watching it?
Well, for me, it changed my conception of Max Verstappen for the worse. Like, I used to really admire. I mean, during a while. Right now, I like him again. But I used to like him a lot and used to admire him so much because he is so talented. I mean, there's no other reason why Lewis Hamilton does not want him in his team. He is probably the most talented driver of the Formula One, period. But then they started showing you this really aggressive side of him. And I was like, well, I do not want to support somebody with a behavior like this. But then again, like we said, Netflix is dramatizing every single personality. And then you look at him, I don't know, like hanging out with his friends or with his girlfriend or whatever, like in real life. And he seems like a nice person with just a little bit of attitude, you know? And then I watched the season finale of season 2 yesterday, I think it was. And the way he felt so excited for Pierre Gasly's first podium. Yeah. And for Pierre Gasly's, you know, second place and everything he started saying about him, I legit cried, and it made me like feel so emotional. And I was like, so he does have a good heart after all, you know? Mm-hmm. He has just been portrayed as a bad guy of the Formula One, when in reality, I mean, that's really not the case. He's just very competitive and fights for his position. I do think he needs to work on his temper, though.
No, totally his temper. I do agree. I do agree. Like, they dramatize the personalities. You know what I was gonna say? Someone that stuck out for me, and it wasn't that I loved the Daniel Ricciardo storyline when he left, and I'll tell you why. Because I'm such a big. I always like who doesn't like Daniel Ricciardo? Let's be real. Like, who doesn't, right? Like, he's so charismatic and so everything. And it was really interesting though to see how they played that out with him leaving, because you can tell that he needed to get out of that team for his career, right? But when you see all the media headlines and things like that keep coming our way, it's like, oh, he's too scared. Oh, it's this. Oh, it's that. It's clickbait, right? So, and that's the way it is with the media world in F1. So the cool thing about this series is that you get a little bit of a deeper perspective on all the drivers. And it was really cool to see Ricciardo kind of like, remember how he went off and had some alone time and was like thoughtful about it. And it was cool to see that. And I appreciated that storyline, because we don't see that, all we see are the headlines. Oh, you're scared. Oh, you're too scared. Or, so-and-so left the team because he got ran off by Max. And that's not exactly the case. It's just, he's looking out for himself. So, the Daniel Ricciardo one, I mean, as if it could make me love him even more, but it did. And of course, Seb's perfect. So that's all I have to say. I didn't need to like Seb.
Okay. And what's about me? It's not much about changing the opinion in a good or a worse way. It's more about that I am interested more in the personality of each driver on the grid. As before, it was like I was reading all the news and other stuff about my favorite drivers, and now I'm interested in everyone. For example, when I saw the parts about Daniel Ricciardo, at first I thought that he's like a person who is always funny, who is always smiles, who is always joking. And after watching the Netflix, I thought, no, he's more than this. He is a person who worries about every situation he has in his career, and that really makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Such a good point. Very good. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, totally agree with you girls, and it's very interesting. And as we said before, in the first season, two teams didn't participate, Mercedes and Ferrari, and I think it was the right decision, yes, as it helped to pay attention to other teams, where there were also a lot of interesting things happening. But they participated in the second season, and in my opinion, the directors didn't show the full potential of Ferrari there. But Mercedes certainly chose the most inaccessible Grand Prix for filming. And could you share your opinion on this?
Well, yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, Mercedes did choose the worst Grand Prix to show on the series. But they show you, I mean, in a way I liked it because they show you that Mercedes is also real. I mean, we always see them winning. And this was the only episode probably in which they lost. Both drivers got out of the competition. So yeah, I think it was like a really good episode. Really nice choice.
Yeah, I was going to say, you know what? Showing that episode, it made me love Toto Wolff a lot because, oh, come on, when he was on the phone, he goes, "Did I have a bad day at the office?" "No, it was a shit day. It was a shit day at the office." Like, I mean, that was hilarious. And you know, I'll be honest, before Drive to Survive, I was I was always skeptical of Toto Wolff. So I was like, oh, you know, I like him, but you see this persona of him. But then when you see those candid moments like that, where he's making fun of himself, and he can, it just, like, exactly what you said, Manana, it showed that they're real, and it did. It showed the perfect team is now relatable. How many times do you have a shit day? I have them. We all have them, and you kind of just laugh at yourself. So yeah, I think that, and I think I'm interested to see next season how they're going to do Ferrari, because I feel like there's so much more that we need to go into.
Yeah, 2020 was drama for Ferrari, definitely.
Yes,
yes,
they had so many problems with the engine. They had a very good car. They had to cope with it all season long. It was a real bizarre. And what about Toto Wolff? I totally agree with you. And about Mercedes, I think they also have chosen this race because it was a special race for them. It was their, if I'm not mistaken, 125-year anniversary. They wore special costumes. They were well prepared for this day. And then everything went terribly wrong. This was very interesting to watch, but I also felt a bit sad for him. Well, personally, watching this race, I was really happy because my favorite driver, Sebastian Vettel, managed to rise to the second place from the situation he was in. I was really happy. I didn't care much about Mercedes, but when I saw the series, I thought about this more. And also, I think it is really important to see how the team that always wins behaves when they lose. This is really interesting, yes. And what about Ferrari? As you, I also expect to see a lot more in the third season about them.
Yeah. And as Ekaterina mentioned about special suits for Mercedes, actually a little bit different story. I just reading a book about Jenson Button, his book, and he wrote about a moment when his mechanic on the qualification day, free practice days, was in one uniform, and just the day of the race they changed it, and he knew it, but at that moment he just totally forgot about it. And in the result, on the pit stop, he came to the box of Sebastian Vettel, and Sebastian Vettel came just right as well at that moment to pit stop, and everybody was shocked. And me, I was like, I so laughed when I read it. while I was reading it. It was so funny, and me, I was like, why I didn't see this Grand Prix? I needed to watch it very quickly because it sounds very funny.
Yeah.
That's funny. That's funny. That's awesome. Oh my gosh. That's, yeah, totally. Yeah, that'll throw you off, right? Having the different racing suits. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, it's very amazing. And speaking of Mercedes, I think the episode about Mercedes was filmed in the UK last year, if I'm not wrong, and it was all smooth sailing the ice there. So yeah, another interesting episode, I think. So, okay, when the first season came out, I was amazed at what's going on behind the scenes, and that the world of the paddock is full of intrigues and everything is very serious. And for me, the most vivid memory is the negotiations between Red Bull and Renault over the engine and Daniel Ricciardo's new contract. And I was shocked. I was shocked, honestly, because when I watched it first time, I had one opinion, and when I rewatched it just really some weeks ago, I already was like, no, now I just accept another part of this story. So, and what about you girls? Let's remember this moment.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. I mean, rewatching things changes your perspective 100% because you already know what's gonna happen. So you see it with a different perspective. So yeah, this whole situation was probably one of the most dramatic moments. I say the word drama so much, but that's Drive to Survive. I mean, it's just pure drama. Like, knowing how Red Bull and Renault started fighting, the team principals, and then Ricciardo pulls it off on them like, oh, well, bye, I'm leaving Red Bull and going to Renault. It's like, I was like, ouch, that must have really stung Christian Horner. And as you've mentioned in previous episodes, Mandy, Christian Horner's ego is big. So
yes,
not even he knew that Ricciardo was going to leave the team until 10 days before he left or something like that. So he was like, ouch, that was intense.
Yeah, no, I agree. It was so intense. And you know what? Okay, so the funny thing about this is, right, you see the drama, right, of this unfold. And like I said, we get to see this because we wouldn't get to see this, right? So now, how many times do you see a media press conference and you see Cyril and Christian Horner and you're like, oh, this is going to be awkward. Do you know what I mean? It totally changes your perspective from here on out. And you know what I'm already anticipating? I'm already anticipating when Seb loses his contract. That's going to be epic. I hope they're around Ferrari when this happens, right? Because that's going to be totally epic. But I will tell you, I was very surprised when that incident happened and Netflix showed the interaction between Christian Horner and Cyril, because it was so whoa, I wasn't expecting them because they're always so guarded, right? They're always so guarded in the media. And so when that happened, I was like, oh man, I was like, oh, here we go. So I was like, yeah, totally like that. But yeah, it just, like I said, it just makes it a new perspective, and we're just even getting our feet wet for this season, it's going to be big next season.
Yes. And what about one of the moments I remember a lot from the season is the episode telling the story about Nico Hülkenberg, about his story of guessing the podium, about his Renault, and about him racing against Daniel, about Daniel Ricciardo becoming the star of Renault. And I remember that race in Germany when they said, if you get the podium, you are with us, and if not, you leave. So this was very, very emotional to see.
Okay, very nice, girls. And talking about Daniel Ricciardo, I think the new contract with McLaren is an indicator of his championship ambitions. And he has Grand Prix wins, podiums too, and now he needed championship title. And to win, his desire is not enough. You need a good relationship with the team and a favorable psychological climate. And we know how warm the atmosphere is in McLaren. And speaking of this close-knit family, I would like to recall the episode about Carlos Sainz in the second season, when we saw even the difference in approach between Renault and McLaren in the presentation of the car, and how the team enjoyed his first podium in Brazil. I think I cried at the moment.
I cried.
Yeah, especially when the team were waiting for the judge's decision. And what emotions did you experience watching the 2018 Brazilian Grand Prix, and how do you think will we cry watching the Italian Grand Prix Drive to Survive this season?
Oh my gosh, yes, I cried. But you girls already know he's my favorite driver, so it was such, like he said, an awkward way of winning his first podium, but celebrating with his team. I mean, exactly everything you said, Jess. McLaren is such a close-knit family. Everybody gets along with everybody. I mean, the video they made for him to say goodbye when he left for another team. I mean, who does that? To be honest, nobody. I also cried watching that video. I'm a very emotional person, and the Formula One makes me cry a lot. So I love McLaren, and I am so glad that such a good-hearted team is growing so much, because I had the privilege to interview one of the McLaren new engineers yesterday for my podcast. Yes, thank you, Mandy. And thank you, girls. And
awesome.
said that everything that you see on camera is exactly everything that happens backstage. And that for them, it was totally unexpected to end third place in constructors this season, because they did try to make some improvements to the car, but they never thought they were going to be, that high. And so I'm really excited for, like I said, a good-hearted team to be aiming this high. So, yeah.
Oh, awesome. And then congratulations on it. That's huge. I'm so excited for you for that interview. Yay. Okay. Yes. Okay. I definitely, I think we were talking a little bit about Daniel Ricciardo and his ambitions, right? Yeah, he's an ambitious driver. Can he do it with McLaren? I think McLaren's only getting stronger, to be honest. And like I said, I see their potential across all boards, because I see them in IndyCar as well. And I've said this as well, like that team is just the team to watch. They are consistent across all boards. The communication is great. The way they treat their drivers is amazing. Exactly what you said, Manana. And when Carlos Sainz had that podium, I mean, I was like, it was a bittersweet moment, right? Because I was so happy, but then I was like, oh, he had to do it by himself without, because remember, the decision came later. Do you remember? The decision came after the race, and I was like, oh, but then I saw that the whole team went over there and celebrated with him, and it was cool. And then I was like, okay, he had a special moment. So I felt better for him. But what a beautiful moment. I definitely am very emotional too. I get like that too. I will fight with people if they disagree with me. Just kidding. I won't fight with them, but I'll be like, no, and then I'll calm down. But I'm very emotional, and it was, I felt that for him. A podium in F1, especially right now, is so hard unless you are Mercedes, unless you are Red Bull. I'm not even throwing Ferrari in there yet, because Ferrari didn't even get anything this past year. So getting a podium is so amazing in general, but especially in F1, and first podiums are so fantastic. So yes, I felt very emotional, and I can't wait to see more of those for Carlos.
Yay!
Yeah, same. I have the same emotions. And also, what about the atmosphere in McLaren? I think it was one of the key factors of them making it third in Constructors' Championship last year, because teamwork is a really, really, really important fact in Formula One. And what about Italy in 2000? 19. Oh, sorry. 2020. The race in Monza when Pierre Gasly finally made it to the win after his very, very tough time at Red Bull. It was very emotional to see. It was so important for Pierre to get the win, to prove everyone wrong. I was so happy to see him standing there. I was so happy to see his emotions. It was an amazing feeling.
Yeah, I totally agree. I remember, when I was fan of Nico Rosberg, I was worried about every race of him, especially when he was close to Lewis. I was like, oh my God, no. And I was not able to see it during the race. I was walking in my living room and was like, oh my God, when this will be finished, I cannot. And about Pierre, I experienced same emotions because I was like staying in front of my TV at that race, and I was like, oh my God, oh my God, this is crazy. But it was very amazing, actually. Yeah, so I think Pierre Gasly will take a significant part of that episode. So, I think it will be about
I hope they will feature him. I hope they will pay attention to her.
Yes.
I saw something in trailer, so yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's a great driver.
Yeah, so and this picture was very bright and amazing, and I think the pictures from the podium, I think I have everywhere on my computer, phone,
I put them on my lock screen.
Aww, that's precious. That's so precious. Aww.
So yeah, it's really beautiful. So yeah, and it reminded me of Monza 2018 when Charles Leclerc won for the second time in a row, but in front of Tifosi, in the home of Ferrari, yeah. These emotions, the joy of the fans, it's just something incredible. So do you agree?
Definitely. That has been one of the most emotional wins. I think especially for Charles Leclerc, because that was from the moment where he started proving himself as a very talented driver and a driver to watch. I mean, if you ask people nowadays who do they think the top 3 future drivers are, they always say it's Max Verstappen, Charles Leclerc, and George Russell. I mean, Charles, the only thing that I feel kind of bad for is that he is way too harsh on himself. I feel that sometimes it's not about his talent, it's more about, the car he has or whatever, and he doesn't see it that way. He thinks that if he were a better driver, he could win more podiums, when that's not the case. I feel that if he weren't as harsh on himself, he would actually win many more podiums. I feel this kind of is a self-sabotage in a way, and what comes out of your mouth is so important, so yeah, I think Charles, which is he's from Monaco, and Monaco people are half French, half Italian, something like that, so that must have been because they speak both languages. I don't know. Yeah. So that must have been major. That must have been major for him. It was a very emotional moment for me too, especially because I've followed his career very closely since he got into the Formula One, and I think he's just amazing.
Totally epic. It was epic, iconic, especially as a Ferrari fan. I am a Ferrari fan first. And having him come in, the future of Ferrari, come on, we knew that going in. Even Seb, has said, when he signed his helmet, said, you were one of the best talents ever that I've seen, stuff like that. He definitely is, and he is so hard on himself. I always want to hug him. I feel like that negative self-talk, I'm like, no, please don't say that about yourself. No, Charles. I always feel so bad when he does that to himself, but I know that's what pushes him. One thing I also really want to say about Charles, though, real quick, is that he got kind of a bad rep because he kind of complains on the radio, but I don't think it's him complaining. I think it's him asking questions when strategy didn't go his way. I think he genuinely is asking, is this a strategy? Because it isn't what we talk about. And one thing I do like about Charles is that he he's not afraid to call out Ferrari a little bit. Seb never did that. Seb was the exact opposite, right? You know, Seb's always been so loyal. And not saying Charles isn't loyal, but like Seb has always been so, you know, cool, calm, collected on the radio.
He's a gentleman.
Except for the last season, then he's just like, you know, we heard his radio, Seb's radio.
I know.
Which I'm always like, yeah, go for it. But like Charles is definitely one of those people where he's not afraid to kind of call out, like, guys, what is this? Guys, what is this? When the car isn't right, when whatever isn't right. And when his car, you know, when his car is like, he's not afraid to call him out and be like, what, God, only this? Oh, and he's so hard on himself, but you know, you have to be successful. And so I think he's got the winning mentality. I just wish he would be a little bit nicer to himself. But I'm so glad he won at Monza, because that was such an epic, iconic moment for Ferrari, for the future driver of Ferrari. You know, I think that was good for him. He needed that. Do you know what I mean? He needed that. He needed that for his self-esteem. Yeah.
I think that win was a dream of every Ferrari driver. He was so happy standing there in front of the Tifosi. It was an amazing feeling for him. And yeah, Charles, he's really, really harsh to himself. He's very self-critical. I remember in 2020, after their Turkish Grand Prix, he was so self-critical on the radio. He shot himself so loud. He was so angry for himself. Yeah. So,
I remember that moment. Yeah, okay. But speaking about all season, I think the third season will be little sad in terms of empty stands, and the podium celebrations that we are used to seeing will not be felt and transmitted. And I think this will be one of the differences. And don't forget, when shooting the series, anti-coronavirus measures were in effect, and when the Netflix team was shooting the episode about Austria, the operator of the crew had literally infiltrated the McLaren team and wear its uniform. So what are the differences, according to your opinion, we can see compared to the first two seasons?
Well, exactly what you said, you know? No podium celebrations, empty stands. I don't know, like looking at everybody in a face mask, that has done so much on my mental health. I feel we're like in a horror movie, you know? Mm-hmm. So I think that, like, I mean, there's like subtle differences, but that are so impactful. So yeah, sad.
Yeah, totally sad. I think you're not going to, like, the podiums and all that, spraying the champagne, celebrating. That's, I think I talked about this too in our first podcast. Lewis Hamilton wins his 7th title. I mean, yeah, you know, and it's like, no one's there.
No, but
I mean, he gets out of the car. Oh. It's like no fans are there. I think it's going to be surreal, but I bet you they'll do a good job focusing on the other. See, so I'm hoping that because we're losing the podium, the spraying the champagne and all that, maybe we'll get some more gossip in Ferrari. Hopefully. That's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping for that. But I think, Manana, we are, like you said, we're going to see something a little surreal and a little sad. That's going to be the sign of our times right now, and it's going to be face mask, and it's going to be like, yay, Lewis Hamilton for this, whatever, nobody's here, you know, and it's going to be like that.
Yeah, same for me. It will be really noticeable to see everyone in the face mask. I will miss so much seeing the drivers' faces, their smiles. It will be really, really different to the previous two. And also, I think in 2020 we had some new racetracks, which we haven't seen for a while. For example, Nuremberg. For a while, I haven't seen them ever. I'm only 16. Yes. So if they will be featured, it will be very interesting to see.
Yes, agree. just I think at the beginning of the conversation we say that Drive to Survive attracted the attention of people who were not fans of motorsport before, and the number of fans in the Formula One has increased. And if you were asked for advice by someone who has never watched a single Formula One race before and is basically not familiar with this racing series, would you advise him or her to start getting acquainted with Drive to Survive, or would you recommend classic racing? If the latter is an option, then which one?
Well, I mean, I would honestly recommend them to get to know a little bit more about the category, because motorsports categories are so different. And I mean, it's like when you start watching a new sport, you know?
Mm-hmm.
If you want to watch it just for fun, do it. But if you really want to get into it, like, do a little bit of research, because you can't watch a soccer game and then, you know, they have a penalty or whatever. I mean, because I know nothing about it, so. So it's like, you don't enjoy it the same. You probably don't understand the purpose of the game, you know, because you're like, oh, they're only kicking the ball. So here you can go like, oh, they're only driving. What's interesting about this? So I would recommend them to do a little bit more research before they start watching it, and to get to know who, like, the iconic and legendary drivers have been and all of that, because this way they can sort of understand everything and not just see a bunch of cars driving around. Yeah.
Totally agree with you. And you know what I was going to say? I get a little conflicted with this, because I often think about this, Justina. Because on one hand, I love the Drive to Survive, that it's done this, that it's brought new fans. But the problem is that it brings some new fans in that automatically want to talk smack, that don't know anything about the series. And there's nothing, and there's nothing wrong with not knowing anything about the series. We all of us start somewhere, right? We all have started somewhere.
Yeah.
But what it has done is created some toxicity in the social media world, and I can see that. So, you know, I get conflicted, because I'm like, well, first of all, if you want to watch Drive to Survive, cool, but just know that, like, watching an actual race is going to give you so much more knowledge than Drive to Survive. Because Drive to Survive, we're just following the characters, and we're not really, like, I'll tell you one thing. Like, this last season, right, it was all about Mercedes dominance. Are they going to address that, you think, in Drive to Survive? It was probably the biggest part of last season. And if, do you know what I mean? Do you think they're going to kind of talk about that a little bit? I don't know. We don't know, because they might just focus on the sidelines of, like, so-and-so losing their contract, so-and-so's out, this one, that, and this. And it sensationalizes the sport, which kind of undermines it. Do you know what I mean? In a way. And so what ends up happening is people don't learn anything about the sport, and it's so much more than just drama, and it's so much more than that. So I really, like, I struggle with that, because, hey, I'm all for people. I will tell you, hey, if you want to watch Drive to Survive, do it to get that bug, to get the racing bug in you, but then pay attention to the races. Do your research, like Manetta said. Do that so you understand the sport, and you're not just a drama fan.
So hot. Yes.
Yes, I agree. I think if a person knows nothing about racing and he watches Drive to Survive, he will not understand many things. So I think you should definitely do some research. Also, personally, I advised some of my friends to watch the Drive to Survive. But of course, before I told them many things, I explained them many things. For example, how the qualifying works, how the strategy works. So I think if they watch it, they will understand good. And also, I think in Drive to Survive, we don't see the full situation. So there are just single aspects that are featured. And when you watch the race, you see the whole situation that happened. So it is really important, I think, to see at first the race and then the series. Of course, race will spoiler everything, but you will see the whole picture.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
very great opinions, girls. Yeah, but yeah,
Mhm.
we all started to watch Formula One when we even didn't know what is it, Drive to Survive. So.
Exactly.
And speaking about movies, in recent years, many films about racing have been released. For example, the most striking of them are Ford versus Ferrari, Rush. And do you think feature films help increase interest in motorsport, or are they difficult to watch without knowing the history?
Well, it's exactly what we said about Drive to Survive. Films and documentaries and series can actually make you get into motorsports, you know? I mean, to be honest, Drive to Survive helped me so much to like the Formula One even more than I used to, because we got to know the personalities of the drivers, you know? Sometimes when you know how vulnerable or when you know how people really are, it makes you get more into a certain thing. And it's easier for you to get into the Formula One when there's only 20 drivers. Whereas in football, there's like 20 players per team. So it's so hard. And for me, watching Fangio just changed my perspective of vintage Formula One. That movie was so touching and emotional, and he was such an amazing driver, you know, so talented, so spirited. He was just so human, and that's what I loved about him. He knew when to retire, and he did it decently. And he said, once I retire, I am never coming back. My time here is over. He was just, you know, such a gentleman about everything. He never let fame or money get to him. So yeah, I feel that these kinds of movies can make you closer to motorsports in general.
Yeah, I totally agree. And you know, I was going to say, first of all, I am all for more people liking motorsports. So if there's and I don't think you need to be a fan to like watch these movies, because they're Hollywood movies. I say Hollywood, but you know what I mean. They're movies, which means they have a good narrative. They show you the good things. They give you a little bit of history in it, and so it's perfect. You don't have to be a diehard fan. I think they're all great. Like Drive to Survive, they bring in this interest, and I think there are so many different ones, right? Like there are so many different categories. And when you were talking about with vintage Formula One, Manano, with the fun, and there's so many. There's Ford versus Ferrari. There's all of these. And the cool thing about it is they focus on different aspects of racing that you wouldn't necessarily get into, right? If you don't see a movie about it, right? I know that I've been like that sometimes. Like, you know, I'd love to see a movie about rallycross. I'd love to see something like that to kind of get me more interested in it. And a movie is such a good thing, because a movie, or like, we'll say movie or like a documentary, because Drive to Survive is like a documentary. But when you get these things like that, what the good thing is that it kind of gives you a perspective, so then you watch it and then you go and say, oh, now I'm interested in this, right? So it helps you. It helps you find your passion. So yeah, definitely.
And I think, for example, I watched The Rush, and it was filmed the way that when you watch it, you don't need to know much about racing to understand what is happening. So in this way, movies are good. And there are some other movies, like for example, Drive to Survive, when you need to know the situation because there are a lot more details. And overall about the attention, I think making the Netflix, making the movies about racing is very important, because especially people from my teenage age category, they always watch the series, they spend many time on it. So it's highly likely that they will see the Drive to Survive and get interested in Formula One.
Okay, yeah, totally agree.
Exactly.
Very nice. And I really like Ford versus Ferrari, although there were historical inaccuracies. But in general, I began to watch the 24 Hours of Le Mans with great interest after it. I really like how Christian Bale played the role of the driver of that time, because really it was amazing. Actually, I was like really like he came from that time. Amazing, really, really nice. And I think my last question for today: what are 3 reasons to watch the upcoming season of Drive to Survive?
Oh my gosh. I would say Checo Perez's victory. You guys probably already knew I was going to say that.
Oh, yeah.
But the only thing is that Checo isn't really very much shown in Drive to Survive. He has only started, been in it on season 1. But I still want to see his victory. I want to see, what Drive to Survive is going to do about the 13 different drivers that were on the podiums. I mean, that's so exciting. Yeah. And I also want to see how Netflix is gonna turn the whole pandemic thing around in the series. These are my top 3.
Very nice.
Very nice. Okay, top 3. I think just to kind of generalize it, so much has happened this season. You know what? I'm going to give you my number 1 reason why to watch it, because Romain Grosjean, that accident. And I'll tell you why, because I had a kind of a moment being a media journalist. I often interview these drivers, and not the F1 drivers yet. Not yet. But not yet. But whenever I'm interviewing like IndyCar drivers and other drivers in other series,
you're gonna interview Romain this season, then.
What? What'd you say?
You're gonna interview Romain this season. Are you excited?
No. Yeah, no, I am. Yeah, we've already had press conferences with him. He's amazing. So he is so happy to be in IndyCar. I will send you guys screen grabs of the post. I will. He is so the look when he comes in our press conferences. He is like, I've never seen him so happy. And what he said in the press conference, he said after his accident, he looked at his wife and he said, he goes, I saw IndyCar, and he goes, that's what I want to do, IndyCar, and that's a whole nother thing, because it's like he's getting his second chance, right? Okay, so sorry, I went off topic there. But but Romain, the thing, I always go off topic. So with Romain, though, the thing that accident was such a great reminder that these drivers are human. We often look at them as amazing superheroes, right? And especially as when you're a media journalist, you have an agenda, right? You have your questions you want to ask these drivers because you want to know this and that. But it was good to have that friendly reminder that, hey, be a little nicer. Do you know what I mean? Because these drivers are putting themselves on the line, and they are human. And at the end of the day, they're just like us. They have families. I mean, I don't have a family, but he has a family. You know what I mean? I have a family, but you know what I mean? No kids or anything like that. But like they that's what I meant. Sorry. They are human like us, and and it was just a great reminder. And I think that right there, that's the number 1 reason to watch it, just for that event. Number 2, I would say watch it to see how the pandemic affects motorsports, because I think it's important to see that, and to see how they handled it, and to see how it's handled in different countries. We're all so segregated right now. I'm in America, you're in Mexico, you guys are in Russia. It's good to see how this is happening around the world, and this is one way. And then the 3rd reason, the drama. Ferrari drama. Watch it for the Ferrari drama. Hopefully they'll show Ferrari drama. But those are my 3 reasons.
Oh, well.
Yes. What's about my top 3? At first, it's the Ferrari drama. I want to see the whole Ferrari situation. I am really interested in it. Then second one is the Turkish race, when Sebastian Vettel got the podium. I really want to see more about this. And the third one, the race that Lando Norris spoiler to us. I hope this will be really interesting.
Okay, very great choices. Yeah, girls. As always, it was a pleasure to talk to you. I am very happy to see you all, and I wish you a great weekend and see you soon.
Thank you. Ciao.
Thank you
very much.
Thank you to everyone who watched and listened to us. Stay with Osservatore Sportivo. Ciao ragazzi.
Ciao.
Ragazzi!